So I got a question for you. Why podcast and why listen to podcasts? If you know me, you know that I have a weekly Bible study podcast, and I also enjoy making YouTube videos from time to time. So, what's the difference? And why do one or the other? And in case you're wondering, I know that this is on the camera, and it's on camera on purpose, and that's going to be part of my point coming up here in just a second. But first, I want to start off trying to make this point here with a historical example. The first nationally televised presidential debate was in 1960 between Kennedy and Nixon, and it showed the difference between TV and radio. Up until that point, all the debates had always been over the radio. People only listened to it, but for the first time in 1960, the debate was also televised. So that caused a bit of a difference, because those who listened to the debate on the radio thought that Nixon had better arguments, that he presented his strategy better, that he just had better points that he made. But those that watched on television, they clearly thought that Kennedy did a better job, and he was the winner in the eyes of the nearly 70 million television viewers of that debate. Because you see, that debate was not just between the two candidates, but it was between two methods of media, radio versus television. The radio brought out the arguments, it showed the people's points, while the television portrayed their appearances. The worn down from sickness President Nixon appeared to be tired and sweaty, while the cool and collected Senator Kennedy, who periodically dabbed his forehead with his handkerchief, he seemed to be refreshed and energetic to the viewers. So I use this example to show that video and audio both have strong points, and they both have very specific but different purposes. Video focuses on the artistry of filming, coloring, shooting, incorporating B-roll, editing into one cohesive story with a visual and audible, tangible component. So that's video. But podcasting is more focused just on the audible part. It's unique because it really gives platform just to the content that's trying to be created and distributed. So why is a podcast so effective? I'm going to give you a couple of reasons here. Number one, podcasts are effective because they focus on sound, which is not always possible or desirable in video. For example, what you're hearing right now is just my camera. Normally, whenever I make videos, I use this Rode microphone, but this thing died. The battery just died. So I can't use this. So what you're hearing is just from my camera. Now that's because that sounds pretty good, and it looks a lot better, than having this here. Isn't this distracting to look at? But the sound is different. The sound quality is a lot better with a podcast. So I want to demonstrate this by putting on some headphones, and I want you to hear what this sounds like, okay?
So when I switch to my headphones and my microphone, it eliminates so many distractions because just the audio quality of this right now is so much better. Now, it doesn't look that great, and yeah, it honestly looks kind of weird. But when you're focused on just the sound, just the content, the podcast offers better quality sound. Okay, so that's number one. And number two is that a podcast eliminates distractions that come from video. Okay, so if you're watching this video right now, you might be confused about the Menachem Begin mug that I have sitting back there. You're probably looking at the Israeli flag on the shelf and the books and the just all the distractions in the background of this video. So if I were to make it like this, now what's being capitalized on is content. And that's why a podcast actually lends itself much better to writing and speaking rather than showing and capturing the visual aspects. Right now, what I could be doing is I could be reading a script. I could be, since you're not watching me and I'm not trying to make eye contact, I'm not trying to impress you with my videography skills. Right now, I'm focusing clearly just on content. And as you can see, I'm actually not reading anything, so the content's not that great. But the point is that podcasts are very effective. And that's why I think they're the best medium for things like Bible study, for things like content when you're trying to teach, when you're trying to get the focus off of what you're seeing and onto what you're hearing and focusing on the words. So now that you're listening and paying attention to what I'm saying, there's a big announcement that's coming out, and that is that I am going to be starting a new podcast. Now, don't worry, because Sermon Snippets is not going away, but there's a new podcast that's coming out. We're going to be releasing it at the end of the month of March, so stay tuned. There's going to be another video that comes out that'll give a little more details on this podcast. So hopefully you enjoyed this little thought-provoking question of what is in a podcast, and I hope you subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can be notified of the new podcast I'm starting. Did you see what I did there? So anyways, thanks for watching, and there will be an announcement of a new podcast coming out soon, so stay tuned.
I hope the camera audio sounded horrible.